All right, you can begin.
All right. So good afternoon, everyone. So today's session, myself, Celine Douglas, and my colleague Devnan Kumar will be going through the chapter of lead and change. So I do hope that you all enjoy it and take information from it. All right. So first, your leadership challenge. So at the end of this session, you will be able to recognize the pressures from society and the economy for change in today's organization. You will utilize daily change management tactics and the 8 stage planned major change module. You will increase your creative thinking in yourself as well as others and promote organizational environment and innovation when needed, right? And you will be able to overcome change resistance, employ communication, training, and participation strategies. You will also address the negative effects of change in an effective and compassionate way. So, lead and change. So, we are all part of an organization, right? Well, most of us are employed. So, we see that in organizations, leaders try to implement changes, but somehow there's always something to hinder that change. There's always a resistance. And things that causes this resistance are like disrupts employees' habits. So when an employee is working, they have a certain way of they do stuff and how they it's like a routine. So every day you will come in, you will log on, you will things that you put aside to do. So like your habits, right? So when a change, when some your leader come and say, okay, well, let's do this a different way. That disrupts your habit. So you feel uncomfortable in a way because, well, you're already accustomed and comfortable in doing it a certain way. So somebody come to tell you to change your whole routine. That will make you feel like you don't want to do the change, right? Also, personality. Some people personality they don't really, you know, adapt to the change. So and then there's uncertainty and fear of failure. So some employees would think that this change may hinder their work, how they work. Maybe they will think that maybe this change will have them uh, it will fail and they might end up being unemployed or in a situation that they do not like. So all these are things that hinder the changes, right? So, leaders in many organizations from small businesses basically, this is saying that many organization leaders have to constantly think of ways to change and grow their business in order to meet the customer needs and wants, satisfy the customer needs and wants, right? And so also keep the employees motivated and satisfied. Because if employees are not motivated and they're not satisfied, then they can't put in good work in order to satisfy the customer's needs and wants. And they also have to think about ways to change so they can stay in a effective and competitive in a complex global environment, right? So all these things would lead to, you know, leaders having to constantly think about something to change, to grow. So, for example, the United States Army, right? So we see that they have discovered that in order to fight the new war, they have to make changes. Modification needs to be made. And it's kind of getting difficult for them to understand that because in our army, you would think it's to fight, right? But when you go into that war and you just force it, they become less effective. Okay, so moving on. So the fact that many businesses are appointing transformational officers, so businesses are appointing, choosing people to make change in the organization. So because businesses are choosing people to make this change, it says that how important it is for change, because in a business you wouldn't just pick people to do something for sure, right? If you pick and appoint specific people to do these things, it has to be for a specific cause, an important cause, right? So let's recall what leadership is. So leadership is about change rather than stability. Okay, so in recent years, we see that change is becoming difficult for leaders because, well, it's very hard sometimes to get to evaluate how the business is and to find a change that can make the business grow, because like I said before in the slides, that there are always something that will hinder a change. People don't really always agree to the changes that's being done, but really and truly, for an organization to survive and prosper, change is required. And well, next point says that new patterns are just beginning to emerge, but there are no guarantee that it will be successful. So there's a change when you're implementing a change. There's not always 100% guarantee that okay, well, this will be successful. So that's all part of the having to have taking risk in a business, right? And it is the leader's responsibility to help their followers navigate the discomfort. So it's the leader's responsibility. It's their job to, in the midst of all this change, if employees are discomfort, they're not comfortable with the change, leaders will, comfort them and give them tips in order to feel the groove into this change, because change needs to be done. It can't stay in this one environment all for the rest of the business time. Change needs to be done in order to the business to grow and to prosper, right? So, an overview of what the other slides would be. So, we will explore how leaders facilitate creativity, innovation, and change. We will briefly look at the need for change in today's organization and examine a step-by-step module for leading major change. We'll explore everyday change and strategies and examine how leaders facilitate innovation by fostering creative people and organization. And lastly, we will consider why people resist change, which is what we went through in the first set of slides, and how leaders can overcome resistance and help people cope with the potentially negative consequence of change. So, first up, change or perish. So, when the rate of change outside exceeds the rate of change inside, the end is in sight. So, that's a quote that Jake Welch said. So, basically, what he meant that, okay, if the change inside the organization, right, so if the change inside the organization exceeds the rate of okay, what I meant was the if the rate of change outside exceeds the change inside, so basically, if the change outside doesn't match up with the change inside, then your business will not succeed. It will not prosper, right? Because it's not balanced or anything. And organizational change at the internal level must keep up with the development outside. So what's happening inside must reflect what's happening outside. So it goes hand in hand. All right. So what does the rapidity of social, economic, and technical change means? So it means that organizations must be perpetually changing and adapting to keep pace. So organization must keep changing. You can't, okay, implement a change this year and not want to change in the times to come. The business cannot be in one place because you wouldn't prosper, you wouldn't succeed, you wouldn't make any profit or anything if the business is in one place, because other businesses may come and they have changes and they improve in their changes and they are keep on adding stuff and making it better and better. Then will they will get more customers than you and they will get more profits than you, and then you may go out of business. So it is very important to keep the change, to keep adapting and changing. Okay, so environmental factors include quick technology advancements, a globalized economy, evolving geopolitical dynamics, shifting markets, the expansion of e-business, and the quick dissemination of information via the internet are increasing dangers to organization leaders as well as opportunities. So that's just a note. All right. So the big problem in organization. So what are the big problem in organization? It's because organizations are failing to adjust to the environmental changing. Now, let's face it, the environment is changing all the time, all the time. Everything is changing. And if the business do not make a change or implement a change that will go hand in hand with the environment, then your business would fail. And a primary solution that would solve this problem is improve change leadership. So leaders itself must be changed. So in order for they to change the business, the organization, right? Okay. So leaders act as the primary change role models and supply the inspiration and communication needed to keep change initiatives going forward. So basically, a leader is in charge, is a role model. Everyone has a role model. A role model is who you look up to, right? So leaders have that responsibility as role models to supply inspiration and communicate with everyone, right? So effective change requires strong committed leadership. So as a leader, you can't just be dull and not strong or not committed into what you do, because when your employees see that you just you don't care, you just then they will do the same thing, because they will be like, well, if he or she's doing it, I could do it too, because he don't really care or whatever, right? So they would not. So basically, a leader will reflect on their employees. So how you interact with, like how your behavior or your attitude in the environment of the organization will, and an employee look at you and how you think they will do the same. So with that, your organization wouldn't be running good, because there is no commitment in the leadership. So key characteristics of leaders who can accomplish successful change projects. So they define themselves as change leaders rather than people who want to maintain the status quo. So these leaders define themselves as someone who is in charge of implementing change and leading the people. So it have some it have some people who they would just they would just take the leadership status because they want to be high. They want that status so everybody could know that, I am this person, I'm this higher person, I'm higher than you. But a good leader would not study that status, that high up there. Their job is to be a leader, to inspire people, to make sure their employees are motivated, right? So they demonstrate courage. They believe in the employee's capacity to assume responsibility. So, for example, like this, right? I work for TSTT, right? So I interact with customers on a daily. And I remember my first call when I worked. And for my first call, I didn't really, my customer wasn't really. irate, but he made me very, very flustered. And I sat there and I was like literally shaking. And then my supervisor came and he saw me and whatever. And of course, well, I didn't let that stop me from the call or whatever. I went through everything with the customer, whatever, whatever. And I ended the call, it was okay. But then when my quality pulled the call and she read the call, it wasn't a good mark. So my supervisor was like, okay, that's okay, you know, you can do better. And he literally made me feel that, it's your first call, you now come out of training, and he made me feel that, that's not the end of the world, you could do better. So, well, from then I took that as motivation, and my other calls were great, and my quality ended up going up and all that. So that's like an example of, the leaders believing in their employees, right? So they can assimilate and articulate values that promote adaptability. They recognize and learn from their own mistakes. Some leaders would think because you're leaders that they can't make mistakes. They are perfect. No, a good leader, right? A key characteristic of a good leader of these things, we're all human and we all make mistakes, and they understand that they would make mistakes. And when they make mistakes, they don't just swell up in a corner or whatever. They acknowledge their mistakes and they learn from it, and they will actually share their mistakes and their experience with others, so that will inform others. So everything is a a learning process, right? So they learn from their own mistakes, and they can manage complexity, uncertainty, and ambiguity. They have visions and can describe their visions for the future in vivid terms. Right. So, leading a major change. So, there are 8 stages of the module plan stage, right? As we can see, the 8 stages are here. So, the first stage is create a sense of urgency, right? So, in this stage, it is known that change is needed. So, the crisis or threats will, with the crisis and the threats, the organization itself, everyone will agree that change needs to be done. So there would not be any resistance of it because change needs to be done. Because if you're in a crisis and you're getting threats, then you know that something needs to be done in order to fix it. So that's the first stage. The second stage is create a guiding coalition. So in this stage, there is power to guide the change process and then develop a sense of teamwork among the group. So everyone comes together to, get a solution in that way, basically. And the third one is develop a vision and strategy. So leaders are responsible for formulating and articulating the a vision that will guide everyone into the right way to make the change. And then they will come up with strategies in order to fix the problem, or, get into the correct line. And the fourth one is to communicate the stage vision. So to me, I find this is a very important stage, because if you cannot, as a leader, if you cannot communicate the vision to your employees, then everything will literally go downhill. You need to communicate good to your employees, so because they are the ones that has the business running. Because a business cannot run without your employees. You can't management can't do and run the business by themselves. They need their employees. So if you can't communicate with your employees and let them know, okay, so and so is the case, you need to do this, this is how you do it, then the whole thing will just crash, right? And the fifth stage is remove barriers to action. So in this stage, It involves empowering employees throughout the organization to act on the vision. So you're empowering them, you're motivating them, you're inspiring them, and that gets rid of all the obstacles to change, right? And the sixth stage is accomplish short-term wins. This is another important one to me because when you set out these short-term wins, when you make a win, you feel good because you got through. It is successful. You feel good and you feel motivated, and you be like, yes, I want to move forward. I can do something else. So these little short wins makes it motivates you. You feel good. You feel that you can do more. So this, and when you're in that atmosphere and you feel that way, that is a positive thing. It not just makes you feel good. Everyone else around you will see, okay, look, she's happy that she win this win, and I want to be a part of that as well. So it motivates the other employees as well. And when everyone is in the environment is happy and motivated, they produce good work. So that as well adds to it, right? And there's build on the change. So like I mentioned in the previous slides, when you make a change, you can't just stay in that little change. You need to build on it. You need to continuously add stuff to it. You can't just get an idea and just leave the idea there. You uh, you come another day and you think about something that could how to say it, that could make this change better in a way. So you'll be like, yes, I could add to this change. So this will help the company grow more. So that's stage 7. And stage 8, initiate that change. So when you compose the change, you know what you want to do, you know what needs to be done, you need to do it. So that's stage 8, right? All right. So leading everyday change. So leaders see that big changes are required but are unable to implement them due to several factors. Or they understand that taking forceful action would be met with fierce opposition. So leaders know that at this point, leaders know that change needs to be done. But sometimes it's very hard to make employees do the change. There's always something that will be opposing. So that's something to take note of. So what does the nature of leadership means? So the nature of leadership means influencing others in many small ways on a regular basis. Now, as a leader, you have to interact with your employees. Your the little influences that you do, things that you can okay, you see one of your employees and you be like, okay, maybe you should do this in a way, and you influence them to do it, then that's the nature of leading. You actually leading them, so do this and that and so on, right? Okay, so good leaders work daily to gradually shift attitudes, assumptions, and behaviors towards a desired future. So as a leader, you can't have this attitude, right? You have to shift attitudes, right? You can't just have this one way of you carrying out this step. You have to have like different ways. And individual leaders who participate in everyday change initiatives across the organization have a significant cumulative impact. So leaders who participate in changes when they're involved in it themselves, it gives a successful impact basically, right? Okay, so a range of everyday change strategies. So you see here that there's two. So the private is where leaders working alone, and public is when leaders working with others. So we see that the creative self-impressions, right opportunities, right words, alliance building. So depending on the organization, the situation, and their own responsibilities, leaders employ a range of daily change techniques. So everyone in the organization is not the same. They have different likes and dislikes. They have different ways of getting things done, different strategies, everyone is different. Everyone is unique. So as a leader, you employ a range of things, of techniques where everyone could adapt and work with. So leading for innovation. So, relying their organizations for creativity and innovation, knowledge economy for of the late 1990s and early 2000s is rapidly being transformed into creativity economy. Promote rather than crush and create the creation and implementation of good ideas. So examples of these are organizations such as hospitals, government agencies, nonprofit organizations. So what is the best way for leaders to facilitate continuous change, which is a good question for the organization, because how can you facilitate change, right? So create a setting that fosters creativity. Basically create an environment where everybody creates creative thinking, something, a good idea. So have like little activities where employees would come together to discuss and come up with ideas. And that will not only will that foster creativity, it will also bring employees together to improve teamwork, and also that's a plus for the organization. Okay, so on the topic of creativity, what is creativity? So creativity is a production of concepts that are both original and beneficial for enhancing the organization's effectiveness and or efficiency. So creative people produce ideas that meet perceived needs, solve problems, respond to opportunities, and are therefore adopted by the organization. So most important task for leaders today. So they utilize everyone's creative potential to promote innovation and the organization's goal. So as a leader, when you when you pay attention and you notice your employees, you notice the way how they think. When you interact with your employees, you notice a pattern in how everyone thinks and do things differently. So I could have an idea and someone else could have another part of the idea, and you put the two together, and that makes innovation. Like it would be like an innovative idea. So when you put everyone's creative thinking together, it gives a good idea, innovative, a creative idea, and that's so the creative organization. So there are five elements of innovative organizations. So what are they? So characteristics of innovative organizations and creative people. So the innovative organization, creative thinking individual. So alignment, commitment, focus, approach, creative values, interdependence, persistence, energy, unofficial activity, self-confidence, non-conformity, curiosity, diverse stimuli, open-mindedness, conceptual fluency, enjoys variety. Within company communication, social competence, emotionally expressive, loves people. So alignment. So alignment is everyone's interests and behavior should be in line with the organization's mission, vision, and goal. If consistently beneficial creative activities are to be produced. So basically, you as a part of an organization, your interests, your behaviors, how you carry on yourself should match what the business is about, what the business represents, what the business produce, the missions and visions and goals of the business. So you can't have an interest. You're in your working environment and you can't have an interest and you can't behave yourself in a certain way and is not has nothing to do with what the business is about. That makes sense. So your interests and behaviors must match up with the mission, vision, and goals of the organizations, right? So consistently advise the vision, clarify specific objectives, devote their time in advance energy resources to programs that encourage innovation. So all of this is what leaders would do, right? So one increasingly popular approach is the idea incubator. So what is the idea incubator? So a safe harbor where ideas from employees throughout the organization can be developed without interference from company bureaucracy or politics. So creative values. So this corporate entrepreneurship can generate more interventions than usual. So corporate entrepreneurship what is that? So it's the internal entrepreneurial spirit that includes values of exploration, experimentation, and risk taking. So basically, an entrepreneur is someone who um, always experimenting. As an entrepreneur, you are always thinking of what as a product or a service that no one else thinks of, and you also take risk. So that's basically just like that, right? So who are idea champions? So they are people who passionately believe in a new idea, and actively work to overcome obstacles and resistance. So you would see that a person who thinks of an idea, they think that the idea is great. They would stop at nothing to get that idea done, to get that idea implemented. So that those are idea champions. So champions make sure valuable ideas get accepted and carried forward for implementation. So when your idea is sensible, it makes sense, it's great, it has potential, champions would make sure that that's accepted and make sure that it is implemented. So unofficial activity. So unofficial activity is basically when leaders give the employees that little time to for themselves basically. So dream time is what enables business to venture into uncharted territory. So we see that in this stage when leaders give their employees this time, creative thinking comes in place, and they they say that when the employees are in this stage, they are relaxed, they think about stuff, and they when they think about these ideas and all these stuff and they bring it to the work environment, it is good for the organization, right? So diverse stimuli. So we see that Leaders can contribute by lighting the sparks that ignite original thoughts. So leaders are not telling the employees how to think and what to think about and what idea to come up with. But the little things that they mention and they would do may trigger something in the employee's head, and they might say, okay, well, he did this, so that makes me think about, and they come up with an idea or they come up with a solution for something. And rotate people into different jobs to give workers a variety of stimuli. So we know that everyone has different thinking. Everyone thinks differently. I may come up with something and I may say something, but somebody else may have a different approach to it. So when I put my 2 cents together and you put yours, we come up with a great idea that no one could would have ever thought about. So that's when you are more when you're exposed to everyone, to different people, you know, ideas comes up, right? And people can work with customers, suppliers, and others out from outside the industry thanks to the opportunities provided by the organization. So the organization would give the employees opportunities to interact with people outside, right? So internal communication. So without adequate internal communication and coordination, ideas from creative departments or idea champions can't be implemented. So leaders can use the characteristics of innovative organizations to ignite creativity in specific departments or the entire organization. So creative people. So who are creative people? They are open-minded, they are curious, they are independent, they have self-confidence, they are persistent, they focused approach to solving problems. So all these are points of creative people. So leading creative people. So many organizations are undergoing fundamental transformation to respond to new challenges. So our organization is transforming. Our organization should transform. And when you transform, you respond to challenges that that comes up in the organization, right? Okay, so that's when brainstorming comes. So brainstorming, the organization of brainstorming sessions is a useful strategy for leaders to promote creativity. So brainstorming is important because with in this brainstorming stage, you run through everything and ideas just pops up, and that promotes creativity, right? So open-minded, curious, willing to take risks. So all that is part of a creative person. So they are always open-minded. They are always willing to hear what someone else has to say, what someone else has to put in. They are curious to know what's next, what's the outcome of this, and they are willing to take risk. So think about your organization facing a problem, such as how to reduce losses from shoplifting, speed up checkout, reduce food waste, or lessen noise from a machine, right? So, face-to-face interaction group. So when you're brainstorming with your group, so we use brainstorming to impromptu this suggestions to solutions. So together you come up with a solution. So that's why brainstorming is a key thing to use for that, right? So keys to effective brainstorming. So no criticism, nothing, no idea that someone puts in is wrong or could be criticized for because it's an idea, it's a thought we're brainstorming. Nothing is wrong with it, right? Freewheeling is welcomed. Quantity desired. So electronic brainstorming or brainwriting. So what is electronic brainstorming? So that's bringing people together in an interactive group over a computer network, sometimes called brainwriting, right? So, advantages of brainstorming. So, that's creativity increases, social inhabitations and concerns are avoided. It might be carried out with teams of workers from other countries, broadening the range of ideas. So, the more people you have in your brainstorming session, the more ideas that will come up. So, you will get a better range of a solution. You might come up with a better solution when you have more people because more people is more ideas. So lateral thinking. So people who think in a linear fashion start with a problem or an idea, then proceed to build on it in successive steps. So you have a problem, so you start to think about, okay, let's analyze this problem. And you find steps to find a steps to find a solution to this problem. So a more creative approach is to use lateral thinking. So what is lateral thinking? It's a set of systematic techniques for changing mental concepts and generating new ones. So lateral thinking checklist. So put to other use, new ways to use as is, other uses if modified, adapt, what else is like this? What other idea does this suggest? Modify, change meaning color, motion, sound, odor, form, shape, other changes. Magnify, what to add, greater frequency, stronger, larger, plus ingredients.
I have a sneaky suspicion her laptop powered down. um, hmm. You
So we continuing the recording until she come back.
Sorry, what was that?
I say we continuing the recording
Yeah, well, hoping she can join back.
because it's taken she a little while now.
Yeah, she didn't plug in the laptop. All right, here she comes.
Okay, so my battery had died. Sorry about that.
You forgot to plug it in.
When it came up, I thought I would have been able to like go through it
Oh, that's
for.
usually when it's right, really low. What about David? Where is he?
He's not in the meeting.
We lost him.
Okay, let
I
me
mean,
message him.
yeah, yeah. The recording's still going though.
I messaged him, but I only got like one tick. So I don't know if he internet dropped.
Yeah, no, he was having some issues. You come back up with your presentation and stuff, and let's see what we can do.
Okay. Okay, you see my screen, right?
It's you have to choose the PowerPoint.
All right. Okay, so you see it, right?
Yeah. So you were on the lateral thinking checklist.
Great. So because of my computer shutting down, I will go back through the from the top from here, right?
All right. Okay.
So lateral thinking checklist. So the first one, put to other uses. So new ways to use as is, other uses if modified, adapt. What else is like this? What other idea does this should suggest? Modify, change meaning, color, motion, sound, odor from shape, other changes. Magnify, what to add, greater frequency, stronger, larger, plus ingredients, exaggerate. Minify, what to subtract, eliminate, smaller, slower, lower, shorter, lighter, split up, less frequent. Substitute, what else needed instead? Who else instead? Sorry. What else instead? Other place, other time. Rearrange, other layout, other sequence, change pace, reverse, transpose positive and negative. How about opposites? Turn it backward, turn it upside down, reverse roll, combine. How about a blend, an alloy, an assortment, an ensemble? Combine units, combine purposes, combine appeals, combine ideas. So all these are the checklists that you would go through with lateral thinking, right? So institution. Institution is the way the subconscious mind communicates with conscious mind. So So the institution is the way that the subconscious mind communicates with the conscious mind, right? So, right. And that would have been the end of my part, and this others from the rest of the slides would have been Dave. So I don't know if he's back on the meeting.
No, he hasn't returned yet. Can you reach out and call him?
Okay, I'll try. Let me just mute my mic. Okay, well, so I called and I'm getting voicemail.
Can you manage to handle his piece? Just,
Well,
just, just to
I'll
go
be
through it,
read. Yeah, I'll just go through the because I didn't really went through
prepare it.
his slides. Yeah, so I don't know how he would have explained.
Put your swing on it and see how it works.
All right, sure. Okay, so creative institution. So creativity
And
often
just to let you know,
occurs.
that is
Mhm.
intuition,
Intuition,
creative intuition.
creative intuition, right? So creativity often occurs during a mental phase, a period of mixed tension and relaxation. Creative intuition is the ability to quickly identify valuable or useful creative ideas without conscious thought. So stages in creative intuition. How to intuition, judgment, and creativity affect decision making. So the stages in creative thinking process is preparation, concentration, incubation, illumination, and ver- verification. Okay. So the conscious mind is the willpower, short-term memory, logical thinking, critical thinking, and the subconscious mind is beliefs, emotions, habits, values, protective reactions, long term memory, imagination, intuition. Implementing change. So many believe that innovation, change, and creativity strengthens an organization. However, some view change as painful and disruptive and are resistant to change. So the effective organizations demonstrate strength in 5 key areas. So first one, leadership. Second, decision making and structure. Third, people. Fourth, work processes and systems. And the fifth will be culture. So why do employees resist change? So top 10 reasons employees resist change. So the first one, the individual's personal predisposition to change, surprise and fear of the unknown, climate of mistrust, fear of failure, loss of status and or job security, peer pressure, disruption of cultural traditions and or group relationships, personality conflicts, lack of tact and or poor timing, not seeing the benefits. So tools for implementation, innovation management tools. So the main purpose of IM, innovation management, is to introduce change in organizations in order to create new opportunities or exploit existing ones. So innovation management, so it's sectioned out into technology watch, creativity, foresight, knowledge management. Elements to overcome resistance to change. So in the middle, we have overcoming resistance to change, and it's branched out into education, participation, facilitation, negotiation, manipulation, and cohesion. So two phases of change. So we have unfreeze, change, freeze. So unfreeze. It recognizes the need for change, determines what needs to change, encourage the replacement of old behaviors and attitudes. It ensures there is strong support from management, manage and understand the doubts and concerns. So change. Plan the changes, implement the changes, help employees to learn new concepts or points of view, rephrase, change are enforced, reinforced, and stabilized, integrate changes into the normal way of doing things, develop ways to sustain the change, and celebrate the success. So the 8 steps of change. So we have creating a climate of change. So that's increase urgency, build, build the guiding team, get the right vision. And then these 3 we have engaging and enabling the whole organization. So it's communicate for buy-in, empower action, create short-term wins, and these last 2 is implementing and sustaining change, which is don't let up, make it stick. So leadership and downsizing. So downsizing. What is downsizing? Downsizing process of reducing the number of employees within an organization.
All right, David is here now, so maybe he could pick
Okay,
up from downsizing.
all right.
David?
Yes, sir. Good evening. Sorry about that. Power failure here. So
You could pick
I
up
just
from
go back
downsizing.
from downsizing. No problem.
All right.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, sir. Thank you so much, Celine. Downsizing. What is downsizing? A process of reducing the number of employees within an organization of eliminating jobs. So, based on socio-economic standards or being a company faced with some atrocities, they may have to downsize. So they may look at potential employees who have been with them for quite some time and those who have enhanced their capability with the trends of the modern times. Next. So alternatives to downsizing. We have employment policies, changes in job design, pay benefits, policies, training. They can't expect someone to do more or to do a particular job without the training and the benefit. So with incentive comes increased workload, but at the end of the day, persons are rewarded. Next, please. So we have a brief summary and interpretation. Tools and approaches are available to help leaders facilitate creativity and innovation and manage change. Change is inevitable. A major change in the failure of organizations to adapt to changes in the global environment is the lack of effective change leadership. Change leaders articulate values and promote change and adaptability. They are courageous, capable of managing complexity, and believe in followers' capacity. So we know that change is inevitable. It is ever changing. The world is ever changing. The corporate world is ever changing. We have moved from written letters and memos and days the textile guy bringing telegram to a push of a button where we can send emails and communicate around the world. Next step. So I just have some additional reading here. We have characteristics of real change leaders, commitment, personal initiative, motivation, keeping a low profile. These are just some of the aspects of leadership, of good leaders. Major change can be particularly difficult to implement. Leaders can help to ensure successful change effort by following the 8-stage model of planned change. And we have Cutter's 8-step model. So we have, when any organization, creativity is important. Building, guiding, strategic, enabling, generating, sustain. So these are just some extra reading that we have. Generate change. Next. That will take us to the end of our presentation in relation to change. Is there any questions? Anything on intuition?
All right. If there are no changes, then we will stop the recording. Questions, sorry, not changes.